Interesting.
Why, are they trying to do something here in Easton?
Horizon Development owns those pieces of land.
Plummer Mill.
Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Durham Board of Selectmen to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
That company is from that way for a long time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We do have a few amendments to the agenda, actually several. On agenda item 4, we're going to add the planning board chair. John wanted to speak with the board tonight. It has something he wants to report out on. Number 7, about discussing applications for appointments to committees, that needs to happen in executive session. That's a personnel matter. And number 6, CIP applications from department heads. Actually, I'm going to leave that on the agenda so we can at least discuss those applications, but we are going to need to kind of circle back at our next meeting on reviewing replacement schedules in the 5-year summary plan. Understandably, Jerry's got a little bit more work to do on those because they're kind of a mess from what he inherited. So we're trying to figure all that out. So, okay. So, any other changes to the agenda that anybody has?
No.
Okay. Is anyone here for public comment? Dara doesn't want to say anything?
It would be way more than 3 minutes.
It's all right. Okay, so let's roll into department head reports, and the fire chief is listed first here.
Appreciate that, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good stuff, then. Good stuff. You're probably gonna get all 4 hats that I wear tonight. So health agent, fire chief, emergency management director, and fire warden. We did have a couple of arsonists for starting some fires on some roadsides on Saturday.
Oh, really?
Did not catch them, but we did have 5 or 6 between Roseboro and Old Brunswick.
Setting fire to what?
Just the roadside, so looked like kids with a lighter and whatnot, but, behind the softball field, multiple hits all the way down the road. Some good Samaritans actually stopped people with dogs that have water, people were stomping it out. I was handing out applications left and right, because they were better than some.
Give him an Indian.
But it is true, so we're keeping an eye on that. I know recently, just today, a gentleman admitted to more than 20 arson fires, roadside fires. This looks different.
Wow.
In multiple counties. So just keeping you abreast of that. And it is sort of burning season. A lot of people are cleaning up from the storm. So there are a lot of permits out that I can see when it's pulled, all via computer, via the Woods report. So that's appreciative. Station updates, we're managing through the phones. AC is good to go. We're working on a new side door. Ours is rusted out, more than 20 years old, and that's a station security issue. So Portland Glass is already ready to go with that. Just waiting for install. I won't take Calvin's thunder, but Route 9, the road closure, so within an hour of that happening, the fire department was notified and EMA. So I talked to county EMA just to see if there's funds or if we need anything. That made it up to the state EMA. They were looking for, because that was from the storm, so they were looking for cost analysis for FEMA and declaring an emergency type of thing for back pay for the state. So it does matter, even though that's a state road and small town, it has ramifications to the whole state.
Okay.
So I've been in contact with our local rep through that. I also contacted state police in town. They were increasing patrols. Talked to them personally, face to face. Also, that does add 3 to 4 minutes on all response times to that side of town.
Yeah.
And that's the normal 60 miles an hour, 4 mile extra to get over there. And that's how Lisbon comes up. We go to Lisbon, that whole side of town. So Millbrook, Shiloh, Swamp, as you know.
Especially for Kenny, right?
Especially for Kenny.
Yep.
And we all put that under PIO in contact with the town manager immediately. I know some people didn't understand the numbers, but you can get to number 36, Newellbrook from this side, and you have to go all the way around to number 64, Kenny Scribner is the last.
Hmm.
I talked to Rob, the engineer, yesterday. They should be placing the crane Thursday for the culvert. And that he was saying maybe a week from today, one lane open. That's if everything was going. And the reason I bring it up is, again, EMA, we're part of their safety plan. So if somebody gets hurt and they're 30 feet down and there's water, they wanted to know what we can provide. And honestly, that was the Quint as a high point, technical rescue. We took all the gear out. That's a Stokes basket. We can use that as a crane, if you will, pull them out of there. But that has to be on a state and federal safety plan for them to work. So I'm sure you've all filled out some of those over the years. So I spent some extensive time just talking to them just about emergency plans.
Great.
And medicals, whether they were on the other side. They need to delineate which side they're on. Dispatch was notified, all our mutual aid partners were notified in case they have to come up from that way. We had that open house on the 15th, that was a great success, I appreciate, many of you were there, and gave donations, I appreciate it all. Save the date, November 20th, we're doing a live burn in Yarmouth, so that's, they have a burn building there, we pay $1,000 a year to be a member, so we're gonna use it. So all the department will be going over there, live burns, fire, training, that's part of our standard for training every year. So I will certainly reach out to everyone to stop by if you wanna witness that. And if you wanna wear some equipment, we'll jam you in there.
Oh, jeez.
And then give you an application. Call volume is on pace with last year. We should be probably over the 500 responses, which I'll get to. The storm damage, we did 12 legit calls during the storm. Started at 1 a.m. and continued all the way through. Got with Calvin about road closures. The town manager was notified. We're working through that process as far as public works, fire department type of taking those calls, especially without wires. We did several medicals in between there. That was Friday, and then open house on Saturday. So plenty of help. It was good to see the boys out. We did do a flooded basement. We had a pump out for a woman for that. It's normally, they used to do it in the past. Usually but this was an emergency, so it would have taken out our heating system, and it was almost salvage and overhaul needed to be done.
Mhm.
So they did protect it, those 4 or 5 inches, and they got it down and protected all the systems of the house. So that's a win. County Technical Rescue Team is going to be through EMA. I'm trying to direct it with the Sabattis Fire Chief. We don't have anyone to rely on in this county for a trench rescue, a confined space, a building collapse. There's no special team. I came from one, so we're gonna have a county team, and we'll have 4 or 5 members from every town. It'll be paid for via a grant. It'll be through EMA County. You can call on a special team, get 20 to 40 people there, and mitigate that hazard. And what it actually does for these small towns is I don't have to train 20 or 40 guys. We don't have to buy all that equipment. It's shared on a grant, stored amongst the county, so that's just a win for everybody in Androscoggin County.
That's great.
Met with the Lewiston Fire Chief, the whole 9 yards, so we've already had a meeting on that. Just keep abreast of that. October 11th, every school kid was brought out for public education. I think it was grades 1 through 8 at the school. That's another Captain Dimick on that. Phenomenal job, multiple people with that. It was great to see all the kids and got positive reviews, by the way. Before on the radar, the last one, happy to tell you, Captain Dimick received a $3,000 grant the other day. That was posted to all the websites. That is through the Maine Municipal Workers' Comp Fund, the safety. So we've already ordered 5 jackets for flagging and traffic, all brand new signs, everything about that. We have had in the past somebody injured directing traffic, somebody was struck, and it is one of the leading causes of injuries now for firefighters, is struck on roadway. And without the police presence around here, it's important to have certified with the equipment.
Yep.
So it was nice to get the grant. 2 things on your radar. Our EMS, our rescue mutual aid, has increased, and I'll tell you why in a minute. We've been to Sabattis again for chest pain, that's not a mass casualty, that's chest pain from here to Sabatis.
Only
And,
Sabatis.
and transport.
Why is that? Were they on another call or something, or are you getting to that?
Yeah, don't take my win.
Okay, sorry.
We've been to Lewiston, transport, we've been to Auburn twice, transport, and most recently Lisbon several times. And the reason is Lewiston contracts with a private ambulance company, United, and when they fall short, because they have the contract in Sabatis, they back up Lisbon, they back up in all intents and purposes Auburn. Auburn sends a truck over, according to their chief, 5 times a day to Lewiston, and can't get reciprocity, can't get a truck, because they're just overwhelmed in Lewiston and understaffed. They're having issues, United. I don't want to get into it here, but on the radar, we did sign one of the letters of how their decisions as a private company affect Durham.
So when they're they're not able to fulfill the obligations of the contracts they have with towns, and,
Yes.
and we're one of the backups.
Correct. Correct. So far, and that's an hour or two, Sabatis an hour or two, Lewiston an hour. So far, we recoup the transport costs, but it hasn't affected us for a second call or a Durham
Right.
person
Right.
that needs it, because then it trickles down to the next mutual aid, but I am carefully tracking that.
Yeah.
We are good neighbors, they're calling us, we're doing a great job, we're getting there in a timely fashion, we have nice equipment and dedicated people. I think our neighbors realize that, but it really is one private organization that we really can't control is affecting us.
Mm.
So that's on the radar. I'm sure we'll have more discussions. Speaking of EMS, the state, thank you, keeps giving us EMS mandates, unfunded liabilities. And our latest is, we now need a medical control director for our service, for our licenses up the end of November, everybody's is. But that's a contract, and that's a cost.
Medical control director.
So we used to have regional medical controls, doctors that would take the region or the county and say, I'm your medical control. If you have a question, if there's an issue, we work with each other. If there's a problem on a call, if you've lacked, following your procedures, there's oversight. And that's a good thing, especially from the doctors. We're working under their sort of license. However, now we need a contract signed, which costs money to have a medical director. In order for us to have, to renew our EMS license as an ambulance, and this is across the state, this isn't just a county, we need a contract in place, and that contract costs money.
Okay. When will we know how much it will cost in time to plan for it in this year's budget process?
I already have a cost, but that needs upfront, probably within a week or two, and I can absorb that from the fire department budget, but I do have a cost for next year's budget
Okay, all right,
cycle.
okay.
But that is an unfunded mandated EMS type of thing. These are things that just come down the pike. That the town's on the hook for. And honestly, ours is a flat rate, ours is cheaper. This particular med control is like $2 and some change a call or a flat rate. So other towns like Brunswick could be up to $10,000
Jesus.
unfunded, license. And that's, again, across the street for every ambulance. And that would be private ambulance too. So we'll be well under that. But on the radar that these things happen, and that's where there's some leeway in the budget or the funds go to. That was everything I have for updates. Any questions?
Are you gonna stick around?
Yes.
For CIP applications? Okay, great. I have a couple questions for you there. We'll
Super.
that one.
I'll just say thank you for the open house. I know she did enjoy that, even though we had to leave quickly.
No, appreciate the visit. Everyone, it was a good turnout, roughly over 100 citizens and whatnot.
That's
Some
great.
Great questions, state police, some donations that were appreciated on the website. Hopefully we can do that again next year. But thank you for the positive feedback.
Great.
Everybody was great too, so
Super.
thank you.
They better be.
I didn't call you Calvin.
I
We're just talking about how you're always jumping the line, right? Go ahead, Cal.
Alright, so you guys all have so we've been busy, getting all the trucks ready and prepared for equipment, all the equipment for winter operations. Everything's in great shape. We painted the plows, we've checked for worn hoses, belts. We've done trial runs so that we know things are gonna work okay. We have had a lot of work on the gravel roads due to the storms washing out and the heavy rains, and so we've been out on the rains, up with the fire chief and out with CMP and getting roads open, and then of course spending days cleaning up all that stuff. So worked with MDOT with respect to Newell Brook Road failure. Because when I wrote this last week, they were just getting on scene, but he was saying first week in November, and as of today, he's looking at bringing in a crane for the regional directors, looking at bringing in a crane Thursday, and hopes that, like the chief said, by next week we can get some traffic moving through there. The advance warning lights for that intersection, unfortunately, they weren't done for this event. It would have been nice, but the posts were in before the road blew out, but the electrician had some hiccups, and I know I'm saying here that the week of the 24th they would be done, but they informed me the other day it's going to be the following week, so it looks like more like the first week of November before the electrician can get here to hook those up. So we did get Patriots Way paved on Friday, and looking at the next couple of weeks should be able to come back and finish Bowie Hill, the rest of the half of Bowie Hill from where we left off rebuilding to Stackpole. I attended supervisory training for the new regulations regarding drug and alcohol programs, and will consequently be amending the policy for town manager and board review approval. We now have a federal database for that our policy doesn't have, with clearinghouse that every driver now has to. In times past, a driver could flunk a drug test here and then move to a different town or a different company, and nobody would be the wiser that it didn't show up on there. And so now there's a federal database that every positive drug test gets reported to, and if you hire somebody without checking that database, there's a major fine, and there were plenty of people in the class that were there for that reason. I'm sure that was a mitigation. Sure. So there were people in there from like a septic tank company that got fined $8,000. They're like, wow, we're just hired, I gotta drive a septic tank truck. You get pulled over by the police, and that was all it took. So now I'm just surprised that this didn't exist before
Yeah.
now. But,
Commercial license,
yeah,
federal.
so, yeah, there's a federal database now. Everybody has to be in. So I'll be amending
Been
the
there
policy
the
to
whole time.
reflect that. I've got the CIP applications completed, and one of them is an opera, so I have two plus the opera that's in here for you guys to look at and decide which way you want to go with that, because that depends on how the CIP plan will come out for funding. And we started working on the 2023 budget for Jerry. Jerry and I and the fire chief met, and we're starting on that now, so that we can be going over that next couple of weeks. And that's all I got.
Any questions? Cal, Todd?
Who is responsible for rebuilding the shoulders after a new road goes in, a new asphalt goes in?
That's Crooker.
It's Crooker?
And they're
It's
scheduled.
falling behind.
Well, they brought the equipment up, and it is, they're trying to concentrate on getting all the paving done before they switch over to that.
Which is true,
That they can do in the colder weather.
but Swamp Road wasn't done.
This one, yeah.
Swamp Road there's a 10-inch drop off the edge of the corner.
And, that was paved, that's something that our crew's probably gonna have to go get ourselves, but I'd asked them if they had time to get it in this year, but they're not gonna have time, so that's something we'll have to go do ourselves. That's on the radar.
It's washing, keeps washing down the hill.
Yeah. And, all we did was chip seal that, so that was from whenever they paved it last, I don't think it ever got done, so. And some of it's getting worse, so we'll be that is on our board, and we will be working on that.
Any other questions or comments for Calvin? All right, thank you, Calvin.
Thank you. Jump right in.
Sure. Good evening, John Talbot, on the planning board, and a citizen of Durham. So, just give you a real quick update on what the planning board's been up to or about to be up to. Our next meeting is next Wednesday. We have 2 projects before us. One is Celebration is coming back in, or is still in the process for a non-conforming use to do what I would guess would be called agritourism things, so seminars, those kinds of things. So that's up for a vote on Wednesday. And then Deer Creek subdivision, the 13-lot subdivision down across from Patriots Way here on Route 9 is coming back in for final plan approval. So Wednesday we'll do a completeness check, and if everything is there and complete, we'll move into substantive review. So more than likely, given time, that will be finished up in December if they have everything together. The other thing we have been working on is the couple of ordinance changes. One is the couple of changes to the roads ordinance, and we're still working on that one, for lack of a better term. So trying to sort it out. We're taking a couple of things off the plate, but we're still going to have this comment in there, or the statement in there, that acceptance of private roads is at the approval of the town. I say that because I know the great interest here in that, and so that will be in there. And then probably we'll also include a statement that right now, acceptance of a private road, or the approval of a private road, when it's done, is a combination of the road commissioner, the code enforcement, planning board to do the maintenance agreement. We're gonna kind of consolidate that, take the planning board out of the deal with the maintenance agreement approval, and hand that off to the code enforcement and the fire chief. That's just a matter of saying that the maintenance agreement meets the town standards. So it's just kind of a blanket approval, and since they're doing all of the rest of that stuff. And then the bigger one that we've been working on is trying to comply with the new state law on affordable housing. We had a public hearing last week, I believe it was. It was fairly well attended. I think about 12, 14 folks were there, all good comments. There was no real consensus on which way to go. We presented, and the town planner has been superb, putting stuff together, a couple of different options for people to consider. And we went over those, got some feedback on that, and have since then put together a short survey, a very simple survey with some pictures and explanation of options and some pictures for options to try and get some feedback from the great citizens of Durham on what they'd like to do and what's important to them when it comes to which option or what affordable housing thing. So Devin's been great, the IT guy's been great. He's gonna help put it on the computer for us so that you can answer it. It'll kind of compile answers for us. And then also, I understand that the town is going to put a survey in, and correct me if I'm wrong, at the election. Is that,
There was talk of.
there was talk of?
Yeah,
Yes.
we have,
We haven't,
it hasn't,
no, we
I
haven't.
don't know if that's gonna happen or not.
Right.
Okay, well, if you do, we'd like to, put this survey in there as well, and if you don't, we'll stick with the digital one. We'll keep talking about it at our meeting, so I think we'll get plenty of feedback from the citizens. And then we will have our public hearing late January, early February. I'll work with Jerry on the best date to do that, so we can get the article finalized before it has to be submitted for the package for town hearing. And then there's, of course, the Historical Commission and Conservation Commission are still working on a couple article changes there, and I'm sure they will be in to talk to you about that, and they'll be doing some public hearings and other public meetings, discussions.
Yeah, I mean, and I've mentioned this before, but I have to caution the planning board you can't abdicate the resource protection issue to the Conservation Commission, because they are not a quasi-judicial board. They can certainly take the lead on helping get information out there. But one of the things we ran into last time was that because the planning board didn't hold the hearing, that it kind of threw a monkey wrench into everything.
Well, and I think that, thanks for bringing that up. Our plan for both Historical and Conservation Commission, we will hold a formal public hearing.
Yeah.
And so, and George has been, the town planner's been involved, I'm going Thursday night to that. So the actual public hearing will be handled by the planning board.
Okay.
And so we'll try and do that about that same window. We've asked them to take the lead on getting the word out to people and doing some of the stuff that we've done on affordable housing up to this point.
Yeah.
But the actual formal public hearing will be handled by the planning board.
Alright.
So we have 3 public hearings, I guess, in that timeframe. And so that's kind of my report.
Okay. Who wrote these questions? Or where did the questions come
The town planner, I mean, and he and I have discussed them.
Okay. Any questions or comments for John? Do you guys have a tentative schedule yet for, like, I saw a few emails that George copied me on about talk of when some of those hearings would be scheduled. Are you still working out the details on?
Our public meeting, I won't use the term hearing since it wasn't a formal public hearing. We finished that one. We're gonna talk about it probably the next 2 monthly meetings. And so if people wanna make a comment there, they can. And then we'll hold the public hearing sometime in late January, early February. We haven't set a date.
Closer to town meeting.
Yeah, so, and then that way, we'll work with Jerry to get the actual article drafted, to have the public hearing on, and we'll do the same, the town planner, and I'm more than happy to help put the formal articles together so that when it goes to the public hearing, they're commenting on the actual article.
Yeah.
I attended the meeting the other day. It was very informative. It was a good conversation. Learned a lot about what was going on here.
So, and we're interested in any feedback any of you all have, or, the meeting was on YouTube, the town YouTube channel, so anybody who's looking at the back of my head on TV now, they can go to the town YouTube channel and, see the front of my head. So that's all I've got, I guess.
Do you plan on, like, on the affordable housing thing, are you looking to land on an option to present to the town for a yes or no, or are you looking at sending a multiple choice question to the town?
For the actual article, I think we'd like to land on an option.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that it
I
would
agree.
be, so that, because that'll be a very long Saturday.
Yeah.
But I think we also owe it to, part of our job as the planning board is to take all the input from everybody
Yeah.
and say, based upon public input and our best judgment, that this is what we recommend, and
Yeah.
people can say no or
They'll
yes.
take it from there.
I hope, say, well, and hope, our goal really is at least there will be enough information out there that it won't be a surprise. I
Right.
mean, except for the people who paid no attention till the first Saturday of.
Yep, there'll be some of those. Yeah. Great,
So,
thank you, good
you're
stuff,
welcome. Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, John.
Alan, did you need to,
He's
did
here
he have
for
something?
ARPA.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so that, takes care of department heads, so now we'll move to the town manager's
Oh.
report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So ARPA fund projects that we've approved, I don't really have a lot to update you on that. What I'm working on, though, is getting the numbers together that was approved at the special town meeting and what has spent so far. Comcast has kind of included some of that installation in with their regular bill, so I'm having the treasurer separate that out so I can report it accurately. So we're still working on that. So hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have some updated numbers for you, just to let you know where we're at and that sort of thing. Route 9 culvert update, I put that in early after it happened. Figured there might be an update, but there really isn't much going on. They're gonna put I think the culvert in on Thursday, right, Calvin? Something like that. Everything's been going good. DOT did tell me that we actually had our notice out before they did. So I think that's pretty good.
Nice, good work.
Yeah.
Heard about it in Florida.
Another thing that I want to just mention too is that voting has taken off, so the front office Jessica has been like incredibly busy with that sort of stuff and getting ready. It's been pretty loud in here at times, believe it or not, but hats off to her. She's doing a really good job. The other thing I got was this interesting email from some 7th graders that were interested in an ice rink. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there to you, and if that's something the board would like, more information on or would entertain. I know Calvin in Dixfield had an ice rink when he was in Dixfield, and we can explore some area over by the Eureka Center if the board would like more information.
We had one there years ago.
Did you?
Oh, yeah?
How'd it go? I mean, was it?
Not very good.
No?
No, it's hard to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know and Jerry and I talked about this a little bit, and there's some great stuff in this letter.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say who the author is, but I can see why you wouldn't want an ice rink by winter and outside roller skating by summer in your town. Lots of money, volunteers needed, supplies needed. I can also see why you're wrong in so many ways. I love that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this
Playing
kid
over
has
that small
chutzpah,
game.
which
Yeah.
is great. And I know, just as a side note, I know I've gotten one email so far, and I know we're gonna get more because the teacher of the class asked me for my email address. There's a lot of interest out there amongst our middle schoolers for bike paths or some bike kind of thing. So we're gonna hear about that. But anyway, back to the ice rink thing. We talked about that Runaround Pond is used for skating by a lot of people already, and is there a role for the town, Public Works, to pick an area of that and keep it cleared of snow? And maybe if things get, the ice degrades, but it's cold enough, we, re-flood it, or whatever, just right there on Runaround Pond. I don't know if that's something we should look into. I mean, I don't know if you had a chance, but we said, but one of the things I said, but what kind of liability exposure will we have with the town if we did something like that? And I don't know if you had a chance to do that.
That's stuff we need
but-
need to look into.
But-
I'm sure it'll be okay because Brunswick does it, Dixfield did it.
I think it would make more sense at the pond. You get water.
I
right
do
there.
too, because it's already there, right?
It's already built.
Yeah.
They had a warming out there, and they had it pretty well built out.
Yeah. So,
That run around pond.
Everyone around pond. Yeah.
you mean not a town thing, but what people did on their own this
They're
year?
on their own.
Yeah. There was a group that was keeping a portion of it,
Yeah.
shoveled off. But,
Yeah. Pretty good job, actually.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you guys thoughts on that? We don't. I mean,
I would think that would make more sense.
we don't need to make any decisions or anything
Right.
tonight.
Because
Yeah.
it's hard to maintain
Right.
if
yeah.
it's not a pond.
My kids don't skate.
We used
So-
to skate down at Mill.
Really.
Yeah, with that, he was just helping somebody out. With that said, when I also had the privilege of spoken to Mrs. McCabe's class simply because she knew me, and my son actually attends her class, and the 7th graders, Kevin, I think, had the 8th graders.
Right.
One of the reasons of the Eureka Center that was, because I brought up the pond, and the majority of the class all raised their hand, and they said, nobody lives near the pond. This is so much easier for us to get to, whether it's via their bicycles or walking after school and things of that nature. So that's why the pond
I see.
kind of fell by the wayside, because
Oh,
it is kind of on the, I don't know, the other side of town, for
Yeah,
lack of better words.
it's almost a pound. I mean,
Pretty much
right.
Powell.
Right.
Yeah. We used to skate at Mill Pond. It's just on the other side of the road.
Well, now that we fixed that culvert, we're not gonna be able to do that.
That's right. Drain the pond, man. Yeah. Drain
But I
the
agree, I
pond.
mean, I do think the pond is the most.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe
We don't have any liability there, so why would we have any liability?
Well,
inside of-
if we as a town
Maintain
start keeping it clear, or maybe flood it, or whatever, try to bring the surface back, I don't know, I mean, maybe that's a first step to look, at least ask a question of, if the town wanted to do something, whether it's, put something on the grass over in Eureka or softball field area or something, or wanted to keep part of Runaround Pond clear and for ice skating, and, or does the town is that a concern for insurance, I don't know.
And so, I love the idea because she would love it. My question for over here is, where are people gonna park? Does that mean Public Works now has to plow another parking lot? What's that additional cost to the town gonna be, on top of the liability and everything else? And also, with those extra people in the middle of winter, people don't observe the speed limit, kids on their bikes, kids running into the street, all those sorts of things on it,
There's always unintended consequences of everything, but the fact of the matter is, this town spends a lot of money every year. I get it, we spend money towards school systems and so forth for the kids, but we don't ever plan for kids. Whether it's with roads or recreational activities, so the kids, the bigger thing that the kids are asking is what they could do to get involved and to help the town, or what from their vision. And it's hard to see an argument that we as townspeople do enough for the kids outside of the school system.
We don't
It's
really,
true.
I mean, we've got the one ball field here, that we
That's-
leased to Durham softball.
Yeah, that's
And-
about
But
it.
there are no other, like, town parks or town trails or anything like that, but.
So what about putting something on the school grounds rather than the Eureka Center?
That just opens up a whole nother can of worms. So why the school grounds versus somewhere else?
More space, you've got the parking, the kids are already there.
Yeah, I mean, we could approach the RSU about a cooperative thing of, hey, can we, think about putting an ice
You
rink on.
don't have them sitting on the, I'll say, the street
Yeah,
corner.
I mean,
out
that'd be
here.
another, that'd be another approach is to,
I mean, because then you're already plowing it, you already got the parking, you already have, it could be on
Yeah,
one
no,
of
that's-
the fields in the winter and
Yeah.
probably not
Well,
harm
I think
it
if you
as
did it over
much.
there, you're already plowing the Eureka Center.
Oh, I know, I get it, I'm just throwing out a different.
it's
different
another
angle to
potential
it.
option. I think, so I think maybe the first pass is just see if we clear the liability hurdle,
Yeah,
and then if we do, then we can talk about options.
right, there's
like
other, yeah.
what might, because,
Other
we don't want
negatives
this
to
to be a
that,
big, a huge deal, I mean, I think, I don't know how much work is involved in what Brunswick does, on the square there by the gazebo, I mean, I think they clear it of snow, and they definitely flood it when it's cold enough, so, but they don't, it's not like,
I don't think they got a
it's not a
Zamboni
top
out there.
priority, right? There's not like Zamboni and lights and a hot chocolate stand and all that stuff,
Yeah,
like.
no, I don't see that.
Right.
I drive by it a couple, 2-3 times a day, so.
So it's definitely, skating's a hit or miss activity anyway, right? So it's kind of like, well, okay, if we do get good skating conditions, are there some small things the town can do to kind of facilitate skating? So I'm not talking about building a outdoor rink with boards and dashers and, or anything like that, but.
Hosting the Winter Classic or something, doing that.
Yeah, bring the Bruins and Flyers up here for a little fundraiser. Okay, so I think, sounds like next step, see what's going on liability wise, maybe, by our next meeting, a couple weeks from now, and see what we
Certainly
get
got
from that.
Especially the mountain bike park that they were talking about. Somebody was talking about. Some
Yeah.
other kids.
Yeah, I think I
It
forwarded
was,
you the
yeah,
email. I
right.
think, I couldn't, is that the Swamp Road property?
Well, that's
I
what
couldn't
was
tell which
wondering.
property that
It
was.
looked like Swamp Road to me. Alan, I think, is who he said suggested the property to him.
I did not suggest anything.
Just for the record.
Just put your name in there. I had a person contact me and ask about town-owned properties. I provided them with that information.
That's gotta be the Swamp
And
Road.
then they
That's
continued to ask
Must
me
Well,
specific
the pictures
questions
did
about
look that
specific
way.
properties.
Yep.
And a couple of them are resource protection, a couple of them are flood zone. There were some that are not that. And I said, that would be the one you need to check out. Go we'll check that out.
But there is, you know, that right there, though, that opens up something that, you know, not, you know, probably after the first of the year, the board would want to start taking a look at that Swamp Road property and what the long-term plan for that is, anything. I mean, there was an attempt at a lease with the Durham baseball, but I think, in my opinion, that lease is
I don't think it's ever been
void.
signed to this day.
Yeah, it's never been signed, I don't think, and so, but I think the town is probably going to need to take a proactive step just to make sure everybody's on the same page and formally notify Durham baseball that, you know, you do not hold a lease on that property, because they had this grand vision of 4 or 5 fields and all this other stuff, and, you know, really nothing has happened with it. So, so that is a piece of property that, is available to do something with at some point, you know, whether it's, you know, athletic fields or a park or trails, or, you know, I don't know. It's not a big enough piece to probably put a bunch of trails in. You could do one of those, pump track type things. It's like a enclosed, like looks like a little mini motocross kind of thing for mountain bikes. They
Yeah.
just opened a new one over in Topsom, and there's one in Gorham, but those kids love those are fun.
That's what I was thinking.
Those are fun.
Give them
You don't
something to
need, you
do.
don't need a lot of space for that, but anyway.
That
Okay.
kid was asking really good questions, a lot better questions than some of the citizens ask when they call.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was like, dude, wait, oh, okay, yeah, that's a good question.
Really?
Get back to you on that. Yep.
okay, like I said, we have more emails coming on that, so we'll talk about that one more as it comes up, so.
Want me to check on the liability of that too?
Sure, yeah, I guess liability in general, you know,
Right.
like if the town offers some sort of a park or playground or trail or recreation site, what,
Yep.
you know,
I think it wouldn't be any,
I mean, is it just that, yeah, that's just why you have liability insurance, so go ahead and do that stuff, or are there certain things, it's like ice skating, like, oh, don't do that on the pond, cause if somebody falls through the ice and yada, 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 versus if you do it, you know, it's 2 inches of ice on top of grass, you know, that's a different deal, right, so.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Other than that, that's all about it. So you know, I have been working on budget stuff, and I know I'm not fully prepared with everything. Just trying to get everything figured out.
yeah, that's not a knock on you, I mean, it's.
Yeah. No,
it's a-
no, I
it's a-
understand.
It's
This-
the situation that you walked into,
Right.
so.
So I just thank you for being patient.
Yeah,
We'll get
we'll
there.
get it figured out.
Yeah.
There was, I just had it here, but just a real, I know
Oh,
Alan
yeah.
said he didn't wanna speak, or wasn't scheduled to speak other than for ARPA funds, but there was a note in here regarding permits, and I didn't know if that was part of your packet.
Well,
since
I asked him to just give me an update on what his
Yeah, I didn't,
stuff, so
if
he
you
can,
could just touch on it, I didn't
Yep.
quite understand the numbers on it.
so Alan, do you wanna talk about that?
Permits?
28.
Yeah. Do you have that with you?
No.
Well, what I don't
I can go
understand is
get
this
it.
number.
I think it's right here.
Oh, can I?
It was in here somewhere, I was trying to find it, this mountain of paperwork.
What's the question?
And I've got a
I
couple
didn't
more things too.
understand, it says the total estimated cost of building permits during this month was $435,866.
So the
Is that,
estimated when people submit a building,
That's estimated
building
value.
permit, the value of that project,
No cost, value.
their estimated,
Yeah.
estimated cost of the project,
For
is
one
what
month.
they put on it.
so
And that's,
that's really like 2 houses max.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it correlated, and I apologize, the reason why I had the question, I thought it correlated with the 24 number, and then,
yeah,
and then the 3,000, I'm assuming, is based off of the 435,
yes. So the permit,
just
that's
for the month.
the fees,
Yes.
Okay.
our fees that we got. Yep, just for the month. So you'll get numbers like that every month. And it'll slow down dramatically real soon.
Right,
Yeah, no, that's fine, like I said, 2 houses, the 24 in September, and then it goes to 28, an evaluation of 435 seemed real light, that's what I was getting.
Oh, yep, yep, that's it. And 28 is a running number because we have a max per year of 45. I
no,
think
we
it's-
don't, no, there's no limit,
We've got,
there is no limit.
That happened like 1 year, and
In
that
it,
was it.
yeah,
so the planner is under the assumption that
that we have a point that we have to make some kind of judgment. We have to do something with a certain number.
I thought that was still written.
Oh, that's,
It's written.
that's if we were gonna go for, that, if it gets over 45, it could trigger a step.
Triggers.
Exactly.
Right,
Yes.
but it's
Correct.
not, you could keep issuing permits. if it
Correct.
gets- Okay, all right.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
got it.
It triggers action by you guys.
Yeah, well, the comp plan recommends.
Right.
That if you go over 45 permits in a year or 100 lots if approved, then it recommends recommends considering a moratorium and relooking the
Right.
comp plan.
Because right now, the way, if you go back to the when the comp plan was approved by the state, we got a waiver on a growth ordinance, right? Because of the size of our town and what was happening in the town. And, you know, to help allay fears people had about, well, what if things explode and get out of hand? Then there's kind of a trigger mechanism in there that would have us looking at, you know, if we want to do some sort of moratorium, whatever, but there would be a lot of hoops to jump through before we could do that. We might have to go to the state and actually, you know, have a growth area, and then that brings in all kinds of other requirements, so, but yeah, so I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying like, there was like a cap of 45. There used to be.
But that number, you're gonna see that number on my regular monthly report.
I think that's great.
Just so you can see.
I just couldn't like, September was 24, there's only 2 houses being built in October, so there's that 28. That's why the math just said, that's where I was.
Oh, got it, yeah. Okay.
And then the valuation based off 4 houses, it's like $100,000 a house, that just doesn't exist anymore.
So is it,
So I am keeping that
Garage,
data,
maybe.
I am keeping that data electronically, so it's much easier to retrieve.
Nice.
Than it was in the past.
Electricity's a wonderful thing.
Just gonna throw that out there, because I am gonna be presenting in a minute.
Okay.
Just a couple other things before I yield the floor there. So Xfinity, I just want to let you all know and let the residents know that if you have the digital economy package, they are going to be removing FXX, whatever station that is.
I don't know, it's got too many X's in
Yeah.
it to be on my
So
plan.
There's that.
What are you talking about?
It'll still be available on entertainment, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it, so.
I noticed,
Start with
I
that
noticed,
amount.
I noticed,
Package, they're able to jack price and elite.
I noticed,
Take off more
Yeah.
shows, I don't get it. No other
I don't watch
company
any of
can
that
do
stuff anyway.
I noticed Fidium started
Get the Hulu, buddy. I don't know what you're talking about.
hooking people up.
yeah,
Who?
Fidium?
Fidium, the fiber optic guys,
yeah,
sent me a notification the other day that they're ready to roll.
All right.
TV?
yeah,
What's that?
They got the TV too?
I think so, yeah.
yeah, fiber optic,
Fiber, yeah.
fast.
Last thing I've got for you is the American Logging Association, the Trek Across America, they want to use the Eureka Center again to put up their tents and porta potties for their thing this
Basically the
summer.
Same thing they've done the
Last
last
year.
year, and then they did it the year before the pandemic. They did it in 2019 as
Yeah.
well.
And and this, according to this letter, they'll take care of everything, trash and the whole 9 yards, you just want permission to
Yeah.
use it.
Okay. Any objections? Does anybody have any concerns about that was here?
Isn't
They've
it
cleaned
clean?
it up, they've done what they said in the
Oh,
past.
yeah,
years.
they have those porta potties gone before the end of the day.
Wow.
You know, and the tents
That's
down.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just full disclosure, I've ridden the Trek Across Maine multiple times, but, so I'm not riding this coming year, though. I'm taking a year off. I don't know if we need to vote on this.
I would think. I mean, I defer to you as always, but
Yeah, I mean, I
Jerry
think
could
it's
be
not,
said.
it's not a town policy thing or anything, there's no money involved, it's
Right.
just permission to use, so I think, yeah, I think you're
Good.
good to go.
Thanks for letting us know.
Yes,
So I got the same thing, because it requires the fire department to sign off also.
Yeah.
Because they do use our property.
Are you okay?
Parking, I was heavily involved last year, fantastic organization, they did exactly what they said they were gonna do on all of it. The only caveat, so you know, is that there is a cost to the town, I have to put on extra staff for the ambulance, because it was upwards of 400 bicyclists coming through town with the perception of an injury, they don't, they have EMTs riding with them
yeah,
usually. but they don't have transport, so we would be the transport agency. So there's always money in our budget for funding those extracurricular, whether that's the town, private organizations, all of that.
Would you have that same expense whether there was actually a rest stop here or not, but the route was still coming through town?
I don't think so, because we've had other routes in town, I think the Dempsey Challenge, there was
Mm-hmm. Dempsey
some
comes
other
through, yeah.
that provide their own, and I didn't staff up or increase, but because we had, in theory, my thinking, people stopping, you can have heart attacks, that was a rest area, they had on-site medical, but because they have on-site medical, they can trigger a transport. So sometimes we do increase staff, sometimes we don't, but because we did have a rest stop there, and then, of course, an ambulance across the street, we had to increase staffing.
Okay,
It's minimal
okay.
to the town, and it's a great partnership, so I certainly approved it, no problem. Again, that's extracurricular, that the town's public education,
Yep, yep,
but there is a slight to the town,
okay.
just so we know.
I mean, I don't, I think, from what I know of that organization, you could reach out to them and ask them about that, like if there's, like if you do have to make a transport, is there a reimbursement mechanism or something like that, I don't know, but
Okay,
you guys can work that out.
yep. Oh, and I probably should put, remember I talked to a few weeks ago about the feds coming in and doing like a security check and all that? We're in pretty good shape. They came the other day, and they mostly went over to the school just to check out with the voting, and they were impressed with what we have for
Okay.
what they have, so we're pretty good. They will submit a report. The only real concern that he talked to me about here was just the lighting outside of this building.
I would agree with him.
I had that same thought when I was
So,
pulling into
Yeah,
that.
so we need to
I think
look
John
at
and I
that.
mentioned that last week when I was there 2
I
weeks
don't,
ago.
I would even,
In the-
I don't know if it's too late to try to put something in the budget for next year, but, and
Yeah.
I don't know if we need actually new fixtures, or if we just need different lights on the
Lights.
poles that we have, or what,
Well,
I don't know.
there is that efficiency main grant that's out there that we really should apply for. and
Yeah,
see
so
what-
I agree
we can-
that,
We can incorporate that
yeah.
in with that grant. And he was concerned with the asphalt curb, because, I mean, didn't someone run into a building the other day, I heard? In Westbrook, and we don't really have anything protecting this building. If somebody pulls up that curb,
Oh, you
doesn't,
mean like as a barrier?
yeah, they mean to hit the brake, they hit the gas, and they're coming through the window. So
So
he's
what does
like
he recommend, like bollards or something?
that, or, maybe some planters even with some plants in it or something, so
Yeah,
we'll see what his
yeah,
report
see what-
says,
see
what his
what we need to
recommendation
do
is,
and-
They bring,
And go from
taking
there.
boulders out of that gully?
I don't know, all I saw on the pictures was sand, I think they need a few more boulders and.
I think all of them are the most
But he's gonna submit a report, of course, I'll share it with you when we get it, I'll
Okay,
take a look
great.
at it. So, that's really about all that I have right now.
Okay. Anybody have any specific questions for Jared? Okay, then we're gonna move on to number 6, which is CIP applications, and did you guys review these at the last meeting? Did you already, I don't wanna go through them all again if you've already
did.
done that, but
You read through, yeah.
I did have a
Unless
couple
there
of
are any new ones, yeah.
questions. Are there new ones? Do you know?
Well, there
Jared?
is,
just
there-
Alan's.
there's one from Maryland,
Alan's was.
Do we have that?
he was in
He
it,
was
but
in,
but he didn't talk
Yes.
about it, right.
Oh yeah, there it is,
Oh.
Administration Codes Office.
And then there's a couple more that we're looking into, Chief and I, we can talk about that.
Yeah,
once
so I want,
Alan's-
so with the, this is Public Works, cause when I was looking through them, I did have, my first question while I'm looking for it was for you, Chief. I noticed you didn't have a request for just capital reserve funds. Is that intentional, or,
Yes.
okay,
So, I believe I filled out three requests. 2 of them are really ARPA. The smaller are strictly ARPA. So the CIP for the fire department would be the 100,000
Yeah.
for upgrades to the apparatus.
yeah, were we making a distinction between ARPA, or like, and how things would get funded in these initial rounds? I didn't think we were.
Well, I thought they were gonna get included into the whole CIP process, the way I understood it. moving
I
forward.
understood it as that whatever department heads were gonna submit to the CIP would come to us also as to discuss whether it's appropriate for the ARPA funds.
How to fund it, right,
Right.
right, that's how I remembered it too.
So, yeah, that was, we were gonna rate them and rank them, and then it would be a decision at that point on how to fund them.
Right, cause the ARPA could significantly change like how deep into the list
Exactly.
we go, right? It's like,
Yep.
okay, we've got these ARPA funds, we can fund it all with ARPA funds, you know, or we'll use X of ARPA for this, and then, but we still need to raise whatever, you know? Again, I think we still have a little bit of time, so I guess the message to department heads is that, you know, whatever you have for capital requests should be submitted, whether you think it's ARPA or not, or needs to be raised in taxes or whatever. But I think on the one for the Quint, I think, yeah, this one, it says amount requested 100,000, and then project combined with previous year reserve account of 59,000, and then you get a total estimated cost of 125,000. So I'm trying to reconcile those numbers, but I also wanna call out that the amount requested needs to be the total cost of what you're looking for. Like, for instance, you can't assume that, well, I've already got 59,000, so I only need another 100, because you don't really have that 59. That's in capital reserves, and so the request would be, you know, maybe it's 159,000, or it's that you make the request for the amount, and then how it gets funded is a later conversation. Like, okay, we've got 59,000 in reserve, so we'll use that, and then we'll use, we'll raise the balance, or we'll, you know, ARPA the balance, or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's, you can't consider current reserves as reducing the amount of the actual request. Does that make sense?
So if he put in for the whole amount, and then.
Then we decide.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying, is this
and
will
then
just
we
be changed to
Then once we
It just needs to go to.
whatever the amount.
rate it,
actually,
Right.
like,
At least
right,
125.
and then you can decide later on how it
In
goes.
that particular example, I requested the same 100,000 last year. Due to overages, I think, for other areas of the town, it was voted on 59,000 of that was approved. It's strictly for apparatus upgrades.
Okay, so this might be what I'm getting, is this more of a generic putting funds into capital reserves?
No, this is specifically for the Quint and another project, upgrades only. So not refurbishment, but an upgrade, and I'll give you a second example. I can write a grant that's ready to go to upgrade our brush truck. It's 11, 12 years old, there's certain things that aren't working. It's a matching grant, up to $10,000, they'll give us 5, we can use 5. There's no funding stream except my 59,000 in capital reserve for apparatus upgrades. So I need projected 125 for the Quint and other funding. So it's not maintenance, it's upgrading. It would be like the Quint taking
Yeah,
off
yeah,
strobe lights
sure.
and putting an LED.
It's a capital expense.
It is.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that something you wanna do in '23?
Yes, with the appropriation of that, that could be done in '23.
Okay.
Because we're looking at 29 years for the Quint.
Right, so the capital request then needs to be like the 125,000, not the 100,000.
Sure.
Cause that's the cost of doing it, right?
The last estimate was, yes, that's
Okay,
correct,
or whatever it is, cause
Yep,
I guess what I'm saying is, you can't include what's already in reserves for us individual project request. Because that's, because you're basically reducing your request by the amount, some amount that's in reserves. But it doesn't reflect the true cost of the request. See what I'm saying?
I do with that, but that particular reserve was in combination, it was a multi-year project.
Well, so that reserve is not dedicated to anything specific within the fire department. It's specific to, and that's true of all reserves. there is no specific reserve account for the Quint, for instance. There's a fire department capital reserve. That could be used for the Quint, or it could be used for the forest truck, or the pickup truck, or anything.
That's on me, learning, there's a learning curve. However, that was voted on for,
It was voted on as, it was not voted on for the Quint. It was voted on as a
Capital.
contribution to capital reserves. That's why I'm asking you, because you don't have a request for that this year. Those requests, those are just fairly generic requests to, hey, we want to put some money in capital reserves. Now, you may have cited the Quint as an example of what it might be used for in the future, but that didn't make it a dedicated
Okay.
account. Now, there could be, it's possible, like maybe there's something really expensive, like, 3 or 4 years down the road, or 5 years down the road, or whatever. New Quint. You could, we can set up an actual special assigned account for that project, and like the Union, the Old Town Hall is a good example of that. There is a specific assigned account, reserve account for the old town hall, and people vote to put money in, and that money can only be spent on something related to that town hall, like its maintenance and upkeep. But, and this is true for Public Works too, the reserve money that goes in there is, it can only be used on fire or only be used on Public Works, but it's not assigned to a specific piece of apparatus or project, so.
okay,
So I don't think it really impacts your request at all. All I think you need to do is just change the amount requested to 59, to 125,000,
Yep.
so that's what goes before the CIP committee.
okay.
And then when it comes through, if it's one of the things we talk about funding, that's where what's in reserves comes into the conversation. So, what I would also consider is maybe take another look at submitting an actual, capital reserves contribution request. And that's the thing, those are the things that, that we can't spend ARPA funds on, because we can't just put them in reserves. But, for instance, it might be, depending on, what we have for actual capital requests for actual tangible things, like expenses, we say, okay, we can fund those with ARPA, but for the reserves, those we will need to, that would be money that we would need to raise if the board decided to go out on that. So, and it can be an opportunity to, maybe raise more in reserve funds than we might normally, because we don't have to spend taxpayer money on the actual capital projects, because we have ARPA funds to do that. So, this would be one approach we could take, so.
I appreciate that, then we will,
Want to stay right there and talk
I
about?
don't, but yes.
So, some requests that you're not seeing yet, because we're getting our ducks in a row, is generators. The last storm, we lost power, the generator didn't kick on.
This one or?
Yeah, this one right out here.
Wow.
And it had something to do with it, Chief could probably talk more about it, because he was one of the ones working with it, but the sensor was gone, and it's just really old.
Well, they're not
like, is it-
that old. They came on a FEMA grant,
20 years?
well, actually, maybe it has been 20 years. When was Katrina?
2001, according to my documentation.
Oh my God, yeah, it probably has been close to 20 years.
Right.
So, there was, that feels like something, and I don't know, like, again, like FEMA grants paid for that. I don't know if there's grants, that would be something I would look for grants first before I would dedicate ARPA funds
We've reached
to.
out to
Okay.
EMA, there was a grant cycle, I don't know if we missed that cycle
Okay.
for that, and that was matching.
I don't remember, it probably was,
I
it
have
probably
made
was.
contact with it, and it's just for the public, because every grant is not just 100%, they write a check, there you
Yes,
go.
right.
A lot of times it's matching, 50-50 or 75, whatever it is, so it's still a cost to the town. I did reach out to a local vendor to get a quote, we haven't got the quotes
Okay.
yet for the two of them.
Yeah, depending on what it
Bundle.
is, it may not, yeah.
But yes, there's a local maintenance who does a gentleman every year that does it, and he suggested to,
I think that's part of the problem is over the years that, we didn't really have a program maintenance approach on that.
Right.
I remember that came up when we first came on the board,
Yeah.
that it, like, nobody had looked at it in years, or at least nobody could remember anybody looking at it in years.
And it just came to our attention because of the last storm, that's all. That's why we're kinda late to
When it
the,
didn't work.
right,
Yeah.
right, we were out power for an hour maybe.
That
till they figured
particular
out.
generator out back, that, it's like a big cat or something.
Yes,
It's a
yep.
big diesel.
yes.
It-
I think maybe propane, fed by propane from the
Yes,
tank.
yes, excuse me, you're right. Is it serving anything else other than this town hall?
Not that I'm
Not that I'm aware of.
Because it just seems like such overkill.
Well, I think I think the whole FEMA grant thing, because I remember thinking that at the time
Was
we
it a
got
government surplus that they just dropped off? there or
No,
something?
it was related to this being like an emergency
warming
command
shelter,
center
yeah.
kind of a thing.
EOC shelter, yeah.
I don't know if it was an actual shelter. Maybe it was. I think it was more like this is where where everybody's coordinating the disaster response would be here. So therefore, we need the generator for power.
I think this was considered a warming area back then. when
Even
this went
even if
in.
it was a warming area,
Maybe,
I don't know what type of power would
Yeah.
mean if there was an event of a natural, but I would think like an 8K or 10K generator run this place pretty sufficiently. Not that thing that could run City Hall for the town of Brunswick probably, or a hospital for
Yeah,
that
that's a
matter.
good point. Like, is that
We're gonna spend more to maintain that than it would be to
Should
buy a new one.
right? Should look at size appropriateness.
I have to imagine 20 years of upgrades, they should be able to tell us the appropriate size for, right?
Yeah.
The kilowatt output that would suffice even if projected additions or more people or computers or whatnot. And the same with the firehouse.
Yours, the firehouse isn't working either, or?
Ours is working. Ours is a 2001 model. Again, our maintenance plan, same gentleman that works here, suggested that we start putting money away or look at replacement.
Yeah, see, that's great examples of things that would be on the municipal building, capital schedule, looking out, and planning, and say, okay, 2 years from now, we're gonna replace, the town hall generator, and 2 years after that, we're gonna replace the fire departments, and 2 years after that, we're gonna replace public works generator, those are the types of things that would be on the municipal buildings capital plan.
It's one at the Eureka Center too.
Yeah. Right?
But that one is a more modern, more traditional
Mhm,
type
mhm.
generator. It's not something that you see out of,
Military
set
Because
up
I think it's.
an army field.
yeah.
And maybe we have more, but I think it's actually the Eureka Center that's classified as our heating and
That
cooling
was
center.
always that's why we put the ACs
I
in
don't think
there.
it's this building
No.
anymore.
Probably
Maybe it
not
was in the
anymore. Probably not
past.
anymore, right, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, because the Eureka Center came afterwards, when that got rehabbed and the new equipment got put in there.
Right, because, it's got, systems, and it's got a kitchen, and it's got
We didn't
restrooms,
have,
and it's
we
got.
didn't have the school either, right? We didn't have anything, I don't believe, on the old school. That's kind of why I think everything fell here and across
Yeah.
the street at the time frame. And
Yeah.
then when the school came in, they got a brand new generator set.
That's
Eureka
what I
got
was
it.
thinking. I was thinking that generator came from the old school. That's why we had it.
This one?
Yeah, that's why I thought
Oh,
why
I
it was
didn't-
so
I don't
big
think
because
so.
it just seems
You
such
You know
an
who knows is
I
Deb
vaguely
Larrabee,
remember-
because I remember
I
Deb
remember
Larrabee
such an
talking about
oversized unit.
how we
think
got it
that-
and everything.
It's massive.
So,
It's gonna be 75K.
okay.
It's huge.
All right, so yeah, if there's, we'll look at that, and if there's a capital,
it-
if there's an ARPA fund request for that, then yeah. I think we, we're kind of, we're gonna push out the ARPA schedule like a meeting, right? So hopefully by the time we get to our next meeting, with Paul's help and whatever, we can get the schedules and the inventories and
Yeah.
in the right formats and have all the requests in and so basically the purpose of that is for the board to kind of give it a look over and kind of, because one thing I know that because I heard from, the chairman of the CIP committee is that, the board should be reviewing those schedules to basically be a filter for things that should even be under consideration, right? Like, for instance, if, I hate to keep picking on the ladder truck, but it's kind of like the textbook example, like, if there's if the town has no plans of replacing the ladder truck with a new one, then we should take it off the schedule. You know, whereas goes on to a schedule for, you know, refurbish or whatever in a different way. The schedule should reflect that. We shouldn't put a, you know, $1.2 million, you know, in 2030, whatever, expense ladder truck if we have no intention of,
Funding.
you know, trying to fund that, or if it's just not realistic. So that's just an example, but
That's music to my ears, really.
I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, that's gonna be for a future board to decide, right?
Right,
So,
I know, but it helps me understand where we're going with that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's a lot of things that they have requested that's already on the plan, but it's for like 24 or 25.
Yeah, yeah,
Now
that's
they're
what,
asking for it this year instead,
so basically
it
what
was
those.
trying to figure out, okay, how do we do this? And-
So there's the schedules and the inventories, right? So the inventories is just a list of, okay, what have I got now? What year is it? How many miles on it? How many hours? You know, whatever. This current state, this is the fleet.
Yeah.
Okay, then the schedules are, you know, all that stuff, all your current stuff is listed down the left, and all the various, you know, metrics, whatever, are listed across the top. The years primarily are listed across the
How
top.
many years are we going across the top?
The CIP policy says, I believe it's 10 years, and in some things, like the road plan, it might be 25 or 30 years. But it's in the CIP policy, it says right there, and it gives you a format for the spreadsheet, like what are the rows, what are the columns, and, just need to fill that in,
Okay.
okay? And then,
Are we still doing, you still have your road plan, Calvin?
I have the 3-year contract, but we went back and forth with this, and it was decided that roads shouldn't be part of the CIP plan.
well, I would encourage all the department heads to please read the CIP policy, because in the policy, it says, you're right, it's not part of the, it's not part of what they're reviewing to rank, but, it is a consideration because it is such a large expense. It says in there that the pavement plan, and it describes what it should look like, should be furnished to the CIP as part of the information that they get. So, I would review that. It's it's only 7 or 8 pages, maybe 9 pages, but it's pretty well spelled out how the process works and what the requirements are, so.
I got one question, sorry to back us up. So is the generator working again? with the
Yes,
new
yes,
sensor?
it
Okay.
is,
I
yes.
didn't get that out. Sorry, I might have missed it.
Last we
Fine.
knew, and we'll find out more if we lose power again.
Right.
All right, good.
Yeah.
So,
Yes,
Okay.
okay. Where are we?
Did anybody else have any other, I think we're gonna revisit the CIP stuff again at our next meeting, but any other more immediate questions on individual things at this point? I know you guys went over them.
Yeah, well.
Oh, yeah, let's hear, yeah, no, that's good.
Sorry, Alan.
Does everyone in here have a cell phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody? Yeah, just checking.
This is a trick
Does
question.
anyone use a phone book at home?
no.
Yes,
You do?
absolutely.
I figured it'd be one of you.
Do you use it to actually look up numbers, or do you use it as under a table or a chair to prop it up?
I got props and everything.
Right. Oh, my God. Oh, this is the scanner, I read this one.
This is the state of the document retention for Durham right now. This is a little example. Okay? So just so you know, I'm in touch with the person that took over for me in Mechanic Falls as the code enforcement officer, and he said, Jesus, Alan, I don't have to change a thing. You get everything ironed all out. I know. It's what I do. So I'm organized.
Salesman.
I know, right?
I'm organized. If I go out
You
here,
had me at cell phone.
when I go out here, if I get hit by a bus, my plan is to leave things there so someone can step in and go, oh, well, here's the book that tells me what to do. Literally, the Durham Code Enforcement unofficial manual
Yep.
is in my office. I've checked with the, now I'm gonna forget the name of the people there.
Spillers?
Archives, the archivist, the Maine State Archivist. I've been in contact with the Maine State Archivist and said, what do we have to do? I know there's the list, but what's your plan for the future? And they said, well, we recommend microfiche.
Microread?
No, come
Oh
on.
my god.
Be serious. She says, well, I'm serious. I said, okay, so different question. If we scan everything, or if we require everything that comes into our office to be electronic, period, it's a requirement. Are we fulfilling our obligation? Yes. Have it in writing. It fulfills our obligation. We don't need to accept any paper here. We don't have any room for paper here. We're out of room. There's documents that, there's no way to find it. You can't search it. It's ridiculous. It's very difficult. Oh, kudos. I have a new computer, and I have access to the zoning map now on my computer. And when someone calls me, I look it up on my computer, and I can tell them if they can build something there. Like that.
It's wild, isn't it?
Amazing. Amazing. So, great, thank you. I would like to get a scanner for the town of Durham. And I'm not a gadget guy. I don't care about my computer, but I do love it that I can look up something and tell someone right on the phone, you're in the resource protection zone, you can't do it there. Sorry about that. But yeah, there's nothing here. You should be able to build there, but we got to talk about the road frontage and blah, blah, blah. I'm not a gadget person, but this scanner would help us do large format scanning, all this stuff. And we could actually require people to submit it electronically. And if they don't have electronic means to do it, which is a little odd because the people that are doing this are doing it on the computer.
Right,
And printing it out for them to bring in here. But it's good if we have the means to say, okay, we'll accept your paper plan, but it's gonna cost you $5 a sheet. We'll scan it for you, we'll give that back to you. Here it is, we've got it electronically, it's done. The space for this large format scanner, I don't know where it's gonna go. There's a couple spaces in here, there's not much room, but there's way less room for all this stuff that is just being beaten up, and there's no way to find this. There's no catalog. You can't.
Probably don't even know what it is until
Some
you
of
fold
it,
it out.
some of it seriously don't know. You gotta open up every one. You have to open these up. It takes time.
Yeah.
Oh, sometime or another, Durham should step again into the future and get some kind of scanning device. I know there are priorities, and that's fine. You guys get to pick what you do. This is needed now. It could be very useful now, and I'm requesting the scanner. Does anyone have any questions about a large format scanner for the town of Durham?
I have a couple.
Yep.
So, what is, like, those are public documents, so what if I'm Joe Citizen and so-and-so's got a subdivision and they've submitted their big, plans, but I wanna look at that, how do I do that? If we don't have paper here?
So my old computer, my old laptop, is not so ancient you can't bring up PDFs, so you can't bring up documents like that. So that could be set up as a kiosk, workstation kind of thing for them to look at.
So
So
they're
we
accessible
need
as
one.
PDFs?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
So-
And we could email them to people. For example, when a realtor needs something, we can zip off those emails. I tell people all the time, especially when I tell them that it costs them money to copy it. They said, well, can we just take a picture? Absolutely. Get your camera out here. Take some pictures. And it doesn't cost you a thing. So anytime I can do something with technology and do it easier.
So what kind of file system on the computer, are we talking about some sort of vault or something, or like something that would be served up on the web? We have ability to do that?
We don't have the ability to do that. That's a much larger step.
Yep.
That's gonna come with the new GIS mapping
what I was
to a
wondering,
large
right.
degree.
Yeah,
Right now, so everything that I get in the office, I have a paper copy and I keep a paper copy of it, but I also, everything has been electronic since May 5th. So I scan everything, it goes into a property folder that I thought everyone had access to, but George Savers, the planner, was trying to get in the other day and he didn't have access, so we just have to get access to that. But it's in a server folder. All the properties are listed by map and lot number. It's by date and whatever the file is. So it's 2022, October 5th, building plan. Whatever. So
And
those are all.
would that change the planning board ordinances at all? Do we request in the ordinances for subdivisions and in paper format,
always
3
request them.
copies or?
We always request them electronic. So even the stuff that we get paper, we request electronic.
I think that is in the new ordinance, like from 2020 or 2019, I
That
think
they
the
switched
requirement
over
that they
to
submit.
electronic.
Yeah, we don't tell them they don't have to bring paper, but we tell them they have to submit
Okay,
electronically.
good.
You can do both.
Good,
Yeah.
good, I didn't realize.
So-
They actually have to do both. I mean,
They
like,
do have to do
They
both?
have to
Okay.
do the digital and they have to provide 10 hard copies.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
But would we then negate the 10 copies, or would we still get that for the planning board? I'm just.
Probably could, it would just sometimes hard for all people like me to read.
Right,
You
that's,
need that bigger stuff.
no, I get the printout part.
The actual, when it's not a record anymore, it's an actual working document, you
Yeah.
probably do need the.
Yeah, okay, no, sorry.
So what you're trying to do with that is not only scan the old prints in,
Yeah. And
but be able to print also?
I don't want to print. I don't want to print anything.
Okay.
I
not a
never want to
printer.
print anything.
But-
It's not a
It's
printer, it's a
scanner.
scanner, right, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So-
how would you be selling anything with?
I would be, if people come in with their house plans and they say, here's my plan, I say, oh, no, I'm not taking that. I need you to send me that electronically. If they can't do that, if they don't have that capability, we could scan it. And all this other stuff, we can't just get rid of it. We have to do something with it. To get someone to, I've priced up before in Canning Falls for someone to do that, no time.
Yeah,
It
right,
is,
right,
yeah,
right.
big money.
Not
yeah.
a chance. But, as I said, building permits are slowing down. This is the slow season for code enforcement officers. I would be happy to organize and start scanning them in. Say, scan.
You're gonna hate me for this question, but, is there any way that we could get a camera that does the scanning for us, rather than a scanner itself? Something that you might mount up here, put the picture down here, and do a scan function, no different than this has a scan function that turns it into a PDF automatically. Just a question, I don't
get-
know.
Yeah, I get some copies that people take with cameras, and
Yeah.
lots of times I can't use them.
Okay.
Because they're too,
They are tilted, yeah,
Yeah.
no, they can tilt, I agree, so that might be a.
And I did ask this gentleman through budget documents, his name is Mike, he's a sales guy, but, nothing wrong with him. What's the best option? What's the best thing for us to use
That's what it came
for
up
these,
with,
for
yeah.
large plot
Isn't,
things?
aren't you looking at new copier, scanner, printers?
Yes,
And can they incorporate something like this into those?
no,
Not these.
This is a large
Yeah, this is
format.
I understand what it is,
Yeah.
but,
Different
Right.
level one.
but they,
no.
What does
So-
that
Not,
paper?
not your regular Xerox, right?
The one we have can scan and print, and we bought it from, refurbished, from Spillers for 4,000. I'm not saying it'll happen now,
Yeah.
but this was a couple of years ago.
I just I asked what the best option is.
But
And I
scanning-
got a couple quotes before.
It can scan and print.
I don't know.
The $6,500 was the, was the.
68.
or
It's
65,
I got
68.
I got an updated price.
Oh,
this
okay.
week.
Oh, okay, I was gonna ask you, because it says 6,000 to 10,000 total estimated cost,
Oh, yeah.
but amount requested was 6,500.
Yeah, it's
64.
It should be updated to 6825 as the cash
It's
option.
Jerry's,
Yeah.
never mind, it's Jerry's.
Because I will throw this out there, a thought I have is, this sounds like kind of a game changer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in terms of, and part of me is thinking like, do we
Yeah.
really wanna wait until April? And, which will then be coming to busy season for code enforcement officers. This is a low enough amount of money that as a board, we could authorize this expenditure out of the municipal capital account, like tonight, I mean, I'm not saying we do it tonight, but I'm saying we don't need to wait for a town meeting, to do that. So that's, it would just, we can't do ARPA at that point, cause ARPA does have to be approved by a town vote. But to just expend capital funds out of the account, the board is authorized to do that.
Only concern I have is where you're gonna put it.
Yep.
What's the footprint?
It's not huge,
It's,
but it's,
Depends which room it's in.
16, yeah, so, I mean,
gotta print
Is
that.
you're gonna put it in this corner and,
I think it could probably go in the code office, maybe.
No,
I think
No.
it can.
Is it on wheels, like casters? Can it move?
It's literally that picture, it's just the top piece. So I'm not looking for that other piece. I wanna put that someplace. So it's 43 by 16. It's a small
Oh,
unit.
that's not that.
Like that table right there.
Right, so
It
it
is.
feeds through.
but it needs a
Yeah,
computer
yeah.
attached to it, correct?
It does, yep,
you have a laptop, so you
Yeah.
can do it anywhere.
yep.
So where you gonna put George after you kick him out?
He knows, his space is shrinking. Yeah, there's a question about where to put it, but, I mean,
They figured that out, right?
Figure it
So,
out.
I mean, I don't know,
Need a desk. put
what do
in
people
the
think
back.
of, what do people think of a more fast track approach to this one?
I love fast tracks.
That was gonna be my question.
Was it? Yeah.
So I would make that motion if we're there.
I'll second that motion.
Well, wait, do we?
well, I said if we're there.
You got it.
Because I knew.
I don't know. Yeah. Wait, you need to come back.
Yeah, Alan, I actually had a question in regards to this too.
You know, eBay.
Because we need to do a specific amount, right?
So what that amount doesn't include is the annual maintenance.
Oh, here we go.
Well, I mean, it always comes
$29.95
with that. And the quote says, $395 annually, just like the copier stuff, you know, it's a
$395.
$395 annually for maintenance. But I don't know if that could go, I don't know if it could be with the company we have, or that's just.
So
There's
I think the next step is to maybe at the next meeting, bring an actual like proposal. Say, we wanna buy this machine, this is the service agreement, this is how much it's gonna cost annually, this is, how big it is, you know, whatever. And then, and that could also give you time just to confirm that there is actually enough money in the municipal capital account. I'm virtually certain there is. I think there's like, I wanna say there's like $70,000-$80,000 in there. But I might be forgetting about something we took money out for. But so, yeah, I would bring that back, cause this, for that amount of money and for what it sounds like it could benefit you, especially going into the slower season, to have you up and running with it by the time you come around to the next busier season, I think would be well worth it, I think. But
What account, Kevin? You think?
municipal capital account.
Okay.
And that was that was one of the ones where we, 2 town meetings ago, or 3 town meetings ago, we did some assigned fund account consolidation, and, so,
I assume you've used one before, Paul?
I've used, not this kind, but I've used
Yeah.
a large format scan.
Yeah.
so.
I wonder how these things are folded up for 10 years.
I don't
I wonder
know.
how they're gonna lay flat and run.
Well, we've got a lot of flat ones, but
Yeah.
some
get
are like
folded
that
up.
one I tossed out there, it's.
It's gonna be tough.
You might win some, you might lose some, it's really about the
Yep.
future.
Yeah, I mean, I think the priority is kind of a go forward, and then work your way back as you can, and, you know.
No, I just had 2 questions. One, I'm assuming this takes like a big roll of paper or something like that. And you cut it off each, that you have to buy a specific type of
Not a
paper for
printer.
it.
No, just, it's
You
scan
can't
it.
print off of it?
No,
It's
it's
just-
No, just scan.
scanner
So
only.
you can't print like the 11 by 17 off it or anything like that? Okay, that's, answers that question. Secondly, and I know.
We can do 11 by 17.
You could do that, yeah, you could send that file over there.
It's really not 11 by 17, that's a big one. There's the next 2436, yeah.
Yeah.
Which you can do sometimes on a copier too. You can.
Yeah, tabloid size.
Yeah. This might be taboo, but did we look at a lease cost on this thing? Was there a
Yes.
lease approach?
Yeah, I have that.
I'm sure why he doesn't wanna be a printer.
So the cash price, the cash option is $6,825. A 36-month lease is $238.19 a month, which is $8,574. 48 months is $184.96 a month at $8,878. 60 months is $155.61 and $9,336.
He did his homework.
And I gotta, I'm assuming that it's gonna last a long time, because after the initial use, you're not gonna be using it that often.
I can't tell you how long it'll last.
You don't think you'll use a printer? You wouldn't have use for a 24 by 36.
Why would
printer.
he need to print?
Printer
So
and
in
scan.
your business, you need to print because you're the one bringing the plans,
Yeah.
right? But we're receiving them, so why would we
But-
need to print?
But if he's receiving them electronically and wants a paper print, he can't do it.
It's
But they're-
on-
but
it's
they're-
on the applicant.
Yeah.
That
They have to bring us 10
That's
copies
what-
of it printed.
Yeah, we don't wanna increase paper costs.
It is expensive.
Now, wasn't it more on that 36-month lease again? Was it a month? Was it 80
36 is $238.19.
per month?
Per month, $8,574.84.
Over the 3 years.
That's
Over 3 years.
Sounds like sounds like a lease. It sounds like a high finance,
Yeah.
Sounds like
Option
one of
to
those
buy.
Aaron's Furniture
option.
lease to buy.
lease to
kinda
own
thing.
type
Yeah,
of
right.
situation, and then 18 points, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems like a lot, no?
Normally, you would expect your lease payments to be less than a purchase.
They typically are. That's why I was asking.
So-
Thank you.
Okay, so I think, are we good on next steps there? Like,
Yeah.
because, yeah, I think there's enough,
Makes a lot of sense.
to just get going with it rather than wait until, right, by the time we get approved in April and you get it here, and you'd be into the summer season.
You sit unused.
Yep. All right.
Alan, can you sell my copy to him? You did a nice job.
That was going through the CIP committee, right? Your numbers did make sense on that, though, too, right? So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's it on CIP stuff. We were moving number 7 to executive session. We have a BYOB permit.
Two of them, one came in just recently, so one of them is a anniversary and another one is a birthday that they want to keep a surprise, so don't say any names or
Oh,
anything.
okay. Don't say,
Don't say whose it is.
Pretty straightforward. The codes looked at them, fire looked at them. They're good.
did you get you remember we had a conversation before the last meeting that I didn't come to, and the BYOB permit thing came up, and we talked about you seeing if you had time to call.
Gotta call the state. So we're doing everything.
We're doing everything right.
We're doing everything right, and did you see the last meeting? Because I think
I haven't watched it.
Nate Ledger is gonna up his license, I think, so these will
Go away.
go away after a while. In the meantime, though, you can designate the town manager to sign off on them if you don't wanna deal with them in select board meetings. So you can, and again, like I said in the last meeting, you weren't here. How I would do that is, of course, I'd look at them, I'd give it to codes and fire and see if they have any issues, and if they check off.
I don't think Todd would go
I'm-
for that. He's making
That's
a
up
list.
to you.
Who
I
doesn't-
move we authorize,
Who doesn't
the town manager to review and sign BYOB permits if they have met all requirements.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on that?
I would just, if we could, assume, can we include in that motion that he follows the procedure he's outlined? Or is that implied? Just,
Well, I think, I said meets all the requirements.
is it, okay.
I think what he's referring to is
Is
that
the-
I
the
have
code
codes
enforcement
and
and-
fire also look
All
at
right,
it.
I'll amend my motion to, that we authorize the town manager to sign BYOB permits, assuming that the permittees have met all requirements and that the applications have been reviewed with the code enforcement officer and fire chief and public works if necessary.
Second that motion.
Okay. Is that good? Okay. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? All yours, buddy.
Thank you.
All right,
Do all the work anyway, all
Right.
they wanted from us is a signature,
So the rest
on the
is,
consent agenda, we have approval of minutes from October 11th.
We'll still
We have
post
the
those.
warrants and approval of election workers. So, take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Joe? All in favor? Okay, approved. All right, we have upcoming meetings on 11/8 and 11/22 at 6:30 PM here at Town Hall. We do need an executive session tonight. It should be a quick one for the appointment of some committee members. So I'm gonna move that we enter into executive session for discussion of personnel matters under MRSA 4056A. Need a second on that. Second, all in favor? Okay. the appointments to discuss, and at this time, I would entertain a motion from a board member to appoint Tyler Hutchison as a regular voting member of the planning board, Mark Blake and Rod Stimpson as interim members of the planning board, filling out unexpired terms.
Budget.
Yeah, sorry, budget committee, yes, thank you. Mark Blake and Rod Stimpson as interim members of the budget committee to fill unexpired terms. And Peter Jabot as a member of the capital improvement planning committee.
So moved.
Todd moves, is there a second? Josh seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you to those who expressed their interest and stepped up. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a movement.
Second.
We have a second from Joe. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.